I'm Alexa, CEO of WeTransact, and I'm really excited to be interviewing today Anne Cocquyt, the CEO of the Guild. She has an incredible platform and offers so many different things that'll help you through your fundraising journey. So welcome, Anne.
Thanks so much for having me, Alexis. Great to be here.
So where are you at today? What part of the world are you in?
I am in Hood River, Oregon, and I moved here last year when we left San Francisco after about 9 years of living right in the center of innovation and in the center of the city.
I think you had mentioned you have blueberry picking and things like that going on.
That's
On the
right.
side to
Yes.
balance your innovation and entrepreneurship with some just fun activities.
Exactly. Yeah, we thought we should add a farm to our entrepreneurial portfolio.
I love it. That's so cool. I think many founders have thought about it. So to hear and to watch you do that is very cool. Well, tell us about the Guild in your own words. I love it, but let's have you share with all the founders here at WeTransact.
We're a platform in a community you can join, and there are different elements of the community. There's the community aspect where you can join our group coaching sessions and bring your questions and hear from me or from other experts in our entrepreneurial ecosystem. That could be investors or serial entrepreneurs or people who have just raised or subject matter experts in business model innovation or things like that we bring to these sessions. Or it's also the other entrepreneurs in the room that sometimes have just cracked the exact same nut that you're trying to crack. And they may be great resources. So that is part of the Guild, but there's also just the community and the members you can browse and find information about. And then there's the templates that we put together that are not these like 30-page MBA type of boring templates, but there are templates you can really use to look at your financial plan in the next year and see what kind of money are you going to have in your bank account by the end of the year, and answer those questions that are really top of mind for you, but perhaps also for your investors. And then we have these educational programs as well as part of the Guild, where we take you through an 8-week program, for instance, very comprehensive from idea all the way to launch. And you may already know bits and pieces of that program. And we've had people who went through it who had done 3 businesses before, and they said, you know, it was so comprehensive. It just took one step after the next. We didn't do it alone. We did it in a group of people. We had experts there all the time. And at the end, I felt so much more confident in knowing what I want for my business, who I need to hire, what gaps I still have to fill, and then also what kind of funding options I want to choose in order to grow that business. Yeah, and all that is the Guild and even much more. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we do.
You guys have such a refreshing approach. Like I said, it's really for founders. It comes from the founder perspective. I appreciate that. I think founders are told a lot what they should be doing, whether it's from investors or VCs or other funders. And that sometimes can be really difficult to constantly hear. And there's something really nice about being in a safe zone of fellow founders and like the community you've created, where it's to help one another and to really figure it out in a no judgment zone, which is different maybe than hearing that input from other areas. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes or all the time in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, information and methodologies and how we do things change so rapidly, right? It's part of the ecosystem. And so looking at templates from 10 years ago that some great VC put together and thought about equity shares and things like that may not serve you well in today's ecosystem where there's save nodes and convertible nodes and different types of equity being exchanged, where revenue share models become more interesting, where companies IPO or do SPACs and all these crazy things, right? And so I feel like we have to be able to serve you information that's not outdated and from, you know, some university book from 10 years ago. And I think our founders really appreciate that as well.
Tell me a little bit, how did you start the Guild? How did this come about?
Yeah, great question. Well, first we were a ladies club that we ran for many years, starting in 2013. And the idea was really just to create a place for people to come together, and specifically entrepreneurial minded women, and to be allowed to talk about business, because socially sometimes there isn't really a lot of space for that in, at your baby shower or whatever social engagement you go to. You don't always talk about business and you don't go deep. And so we created that space, and we also paired it with really fun activities and events. And after a while, I ran that while I was full-time with Genentech and in their innovation team. After a while, I realized, my passion is really with that community, and I would love to create something on my own and create my own startup and add a little bit more technology to trying to fit and match the right people in the community with each other, because many people told us they met awesome women at our events, but then they didn't take that next step of deepening that relationship and that connection that then would really become a fruitful introduction later on in your career, when you need that accountant, or when you need that business model advice, or when you need to understand who is a good legal counsel for your company. And that was the point in 2016 when I said, you know what, I'll quit my job. I jump in. I say to many entrepreneurs, don't do that if that's not you. It really depends on your personality and what motivates you. But I know how much time I had to experiment with this idea. And then very quickly, I think I left in April or so, 2016. And then in September, I raised an angel round for the company. And that's kind of how I started the Guild, and, hired a bunch of developers and created our platform. Yeah. Since then, this is 5 years ago, right? We have actually totally abandoned the technology. We've pivoted 3 times. And we're now really focused on the community, and we use other people's incredible platforms to facilitate what we feel like is the biggest value for our customers and clients and participants in our programs, and have shifted our focus on education rather than the one-on-one matching that we did in the beginning of the Guild.
That is such an important journey. I'm so excited you shared and touched on everything, like how you left. I mean, that must have been just an incredibly big decision. And like you said, different personalities, some just jump for it. They just know they have to do it. What was that moment, or was it a moment? Was it over a long period of time where you made that decision? Okay, now's the time I need to do this.
Yeah, great question. When is the time to jump? And again, it's different for everybody, right? And I've jumped before in my career. I left a very lucrative consulting job behind to do an art business in Switzerland. And then, I jumped again after a very lucrative project in England, and came to the US with no plan whatsoever, and just sort of this idea of a road trip and my best friend's wedding. And that's ultimately why how I landed here. And I think I'm a little bit of that adventure junkie where, I like to jump, and I like to then see where life takes me. And because I'm in the situation where I have to make decisions, there's no other way. It actually moves me and pushes me towards taking action. Now, other people love to actually have a plan and then execute on that. And I also encourage you to have that plan and to think it through without just jumping and not having, that safety net, right? I always had a safety net. I was fortunate enough, but some people don't. And so if you don't have a safety net, don't jump, right? Like, plan, and you don't have to be the one who assembles the airplane on the way down, as Reid Hoffman likes to say.
Build it as on the way down, as you jump out of the plane. Let's build it as we go.
There's always some truth to that in a startup, because you never have the perfect airplane, but at least you can put a few things in your backpack where you feel like, oh, okay, I've got some screws and some wood with me that it could potentially become an airplane. And
Yes.
so you want to source those things before you jump. And I
Yes.
felt like I had sourced those things. And then I always got so unhappy in the role I was in that it wasn't a question. It was like, okay, you know, life is too short to be unhappy. So let me go do this and let me figure it out. And of course, there's a risk it's not going to work out. But at least, you know, I can say the worst thing that could have happened is that it failed. And so if it does fail, then okay, it fails. And then at least you have done it, right? And you feel better about yourself.
All of these different transitions that you've made, like not just limited to the guild, but what do you feel would be something that you've learned that you'd want to share with other founders? So something that maybe didn't go the way it planned, what you learned from that, and what you can share with us, so we don't have to repeat hopefully the same things.
So many things. And like, like where to start?
And if we do repeat them, it was meant to be. We had to go through it ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think, you know, the biggest learnings came from hiring people and hiring the wrong people, and also then letting them go too late. I think, you know, as somebody who hadn't hired tons of people before, that was a massive learning curve when I hired my first folks. And, you know, it's a really difficult process. And I think every startup kind of breaks or thrives with with the hiring of the right folks.
Yeah,
And I have
that's your
definitely not.
team. That's your lifeline, you know, and they're the people closest to you. So you're absorbing that energy, positive, negative, and the costs. I mean, there's so many costs if you've hired the wrong person too.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we'll make sure we connect with the guild as we're hiring for sure. And talking about that and connect with all the ecosystem partners. Now, you have a lot of different partners in the ecosystem, and one thing that we're trying to do by really bringing you into the community, introducing you to all the founders that She Transacts, is being able to connect the dots in the ecosystem. So the founders are really getting what they need most. What are right now some of the things that you're seeing an uptick in founders when they come to the guild? What are they like signing up for? What's their most, you know, exciting? Where are you seeing the excitement of the founders right now and what they need?
Yeah, good question. So it's definitely our 8-week program. You know, when you put a wrapper around it and you're like, oh, this isn't just a membership and then good things will happen to you. If you give people very concrete programs and action steps, that's what people really love. And you also want to ensure, and I think that's what we learned over the past 7 cohorts of Guild Academy participants we ran ever since we launched that program in January 2020, just before the pandemic, was that they really look for something where there is a life element to the interaction, where you can get your questions answered, but also content that is self-serve, because we know women are really busy and the schedules are all over the place. And somebody who has a 1 month old is totally different in terms of their schedule than somebody who is, you know, running a big department at a big tech company, but is also starting a business on the side. And so we're trying to cater to all those entrepreneurs and make sure that there's a lot of content there. People can self-serve. We give you the tools to kind of put that in your calendar in the way it works and fits for you. You can also listen to this stuff in the car. So, you know, it isn't something where you have to sit with a pen and paper, but you have that short, really concise content, what you mentioned before. And then we give people the templates too and say like, okay, you don't have to look through 100 different competitive analysis templates, but here's the one we found really helpful. And here are the 5 tools we recommend for you to use to conduct that competitive research, because I don't want you to count likes on their Facebook posts. I don't want you to count, look into the code on their websites and see what keywords there are. There are amazing tools for that. And here are the 5 we think make most sense, and now go do it. And now that competitive analysis you can do in 2 hours versus a week or two before. And so that has had a really big uptick, and we love that entrepreneurs from all backgrounds and from all over the world join that program as well. So not just Silicon Valley, but really everybody.
I'm so grateful that you came on to do this interview, because I think we are showing by two leaders how groups can come together, communities can come together and support each other. And the big philosophy for us is leading with her, and her stands for humanity, empathy, and responsibility. So talk with us a little bit about how her relates to the Guild, and just what type of community spirit that you guys have there, to see if that really aligns, which I know it does, with what we're doing here at WeTransact.
Yeah, and I love that, right? Humanity, empathy, responsibility, and how it relates to her, and sort of the more female mindset. When you look at any entrepreneurship program, or you Google it on YouTube or anywhere on the web, there's just a bunch of really old white guys coming up giving you a lot of advice. And it's all about what I said about the airplane and assembling on the way down. It's always a race, it's always a competition. And it's always like, I'm the king and I stand on the stage and I win this thing. And I think parts of the competition and the race are really important to entrepreneurship. You gotta be fast, you gotta be concise, you gotta be decisive, and really run and be there. But at the same time, it's not just a product that we're building and throwing out there. We're building companies, right? And we're building and becoming the leaders of tomorrow. And as such, I believe we all have a responsibility in shaping what we want those companies to look like. Right. And we have to take a moment and pause sometimes when we create those companies and say, okay, what are really my core values? And how am I going to implement these core values in my product, in my customer service, in my team, in my performance reviews with my peers, in my recruiting process, in the way how I select investors and how I run board meetings? And it just like goes on. And then once we paused and decided what that is, then we have really that guiding post where we know, this is what we create, and this is what we want to be, and this is how we do things. So whenever there's going to be a tough decision, that's when we go back to her, it could be, right? And going back to the core values to help us really make good decisions along the way. And there's so many decisions we have to take, right? And so empathy for me is a huge one that is the first 2 modules of the Guild Academy, where we just say, it's great you have an idea. We know you're passionate about it. We know you love it. But now go out there and talk to the people who could benefit from this idea, and really lean in to their pain points, and lean in and listen to what they have to say. Because without that empathy, you will never be able to build a product that they fall in love with, right? And then I think lastly, responsibility, we touched on it a little bit, but I think, I could go on and on with the space race that's going on right now between Richard and
especially today.
And I feel like as leaders and as people who build big companies that grow and touch a lot of humans' lives, we do have a responsibility to create good in the world and create a world that is better than we found it. And to me, that's not the responsibility of a government or a religious institution. It's our responsibility. It all lives in us. And if we do have that power, I think we have to use it wisely and really think about that as well, and not just throw it all overboard if somebody comes and waves with a check with a different type of core value, and maybe also different understanding of responsibility and sustainability as well.
We love that, and I could sense it from you just in everything that you do. And I think that's also kind of the underlying values that all of our founders will love when they go over and check out the guild. And just to all of our founders, as you're going through the platform and really identifying maybe areas that you need to dive deeper. So if you're going through due diligence questions and there's an area that might pop up that's recommending, you will see the guild pop up as a recommendation. So everything's curated just for you, and we really are excited to send our founders over to the guild at the right moment when they're working on these problems and having these issues, because we're not here to be all the answers, and there's so much room in the ecosystem. We want to find the most specialized people who this is what they do. This is their passion, their mission, just like you could hear from Anne today. This is her purpose. Like you could tell just hearing your story how much this is who you are, and this is not just an expertise for you, but this is really a powerful community. And so as you're going through the platform, identifying what you might need to explore more, becoming aware of what you don't know. I think that's a big thing as a founder, is you don't know what you don't know. And hopefully as you discover these things and you connect with the guild, we really want to hear your stories. And is there like a hashtag or a way that when they post their experiences, we love to encourage founders to pay it forward by sharing real Reese stories, shout outs to support one another as we go along. So as they have positive experiences at the guild, is there a hashtag or anything that you'd like them to use or tag you so you can see these real journeys as they're happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love for you to tag @GetGuilded, and on LinkedIn it's actually @the-guild, and then you are welcome to tag me as well. I would love to see your stories and amplify them as well. And just like you, we like to amplify people's voices as well. So if you have anything to say, or you feel like you could be a great speaker or addition to one of our programs, please feel free to reach out to me. And also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
What would be the next steps if they were ready to go? I think after meeting you, everybody will have curiosity. How do they get started? Where should they go next?
First step is to sign up at letscale.com. Just join, and that is free. So there's different membership tiers, but you can join for free. Join one of our group coaching sessions. They're free too. Every last Wednesday of the month, there is a session where you can bring your questions, or you can also just listen in and get a chance to meet and connect with the other founders. Then check out our events that are happening on an ongoing basis. And of course, if you have a specific need, you can always search our platform as well once you have your free membership, and go through all the topics around entrepreneurship, investing, leadership, and also other people's news, like who's joining, what's happening in the community. And then lastly, we do have our next cohort starting in September, on September 1st. And people can apply right now, also directly on the platform once you join, or at letscale.com/academy. So if you go on our website, you'll find the link and see that applications are open right now for the 8-week program. And we would absolutely love to have you and see you. And lots of scholarships are available as well.
Thank you so much for sharing all this. I mean, this is incredible, your work, what you've done. Your journey alone is fascinating, and I know our founders are going to get so much from it. I can't wait for them to connect with you guys at the Guild and to sign up for all those. Like she said, cohorts are registering now, so check that out. But I've logged in, and that's really when I fell in love with what you're doing. There's a lot of websites out there that say they're all about this, but when you log in, you'll feel it. I mean, the Guild is so authentic and real, and there's a lot of founders that I think everybody's going to really connect with and really find a lot of synergies with. So thank you for taking the time. We're thrilled to have you today. And when we're in Oregon, we'll have to come berry pick with you. And when you're back down in San Francisco, let us know, and we'd be happy to meet up for coffee.
And I'll bring you some blueberry jam. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much, Anne. Look forward to talking to you and hearing all about the Guild and the upcoming events.
Sounds great. Thanks, Alexis. Have a good one.